Get it? There we go. So I'm going to do a real quick test to make sure that when I do the slideshow, can you all still see my face?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So I'll go back here. All right. Maybe if I put this up here, yes, I can see me and you. Okay. So this topic for me is not just near and dear to my heart, but as a coach, it's one that you will consistently have a conversation about, right? Because whether you're trying to build muscle, lose fat, compete, whatever it may be, it revolves around the scale. Okay. And a lot of people attach their motivation, their self-worth, even the prioritization of tasks to the scale, right? They rely on what that number is, and their day pans out based on what that number is. So we'll talk a bit about the mental health aspect of the scale later, but I first and foremost want to emphasize that this is just an objective black and white presentation of your weight and what the scale is, what it means, right? This is not to downplay any progress you might have made on the scale or give you an excuse for anything that you've done on the scale. Okay. This is just a change of perspective to give you much better background. So when you look at the scale, when you look at the number, when you talk about your weight, okay, it is from a more healthier and more objective standpoint. I think the first thing that we got to do is change the language of what we're trying to do. Because if you go to the beach, right, and you're trying to show off your physique, no one's like, hey man, how much do you weigh, right? They look at your physique and they either like it or they don't, right? If you look at yourself in the mirror, you're not like, oh, okay, well, I look like I weigh this much. No, you're either happy with your physique or you're not. So the weight really we put on this pedestal, and I would just say that's from years and years of that being the objective measurement, also to do with BMI, which is just your height and your weight, that ratio, right? So it's years and years of that. But really what it comes down to is we really need to shift that away from our measure of progress. So I'm going to shift to the slideshow here, and then I'll go ahead and speak about these topics. If you guys have any questions, please hold them to the end, but this will be really good for you guys. And I think this is really going to shift how you guys mentally approach your goals. And I'm personally going to add this presentation to my onboarding process because I think right from the get-go, this conversation is something that you want to have a very thorough understanding with from the beginning. Okay, so does your weight really matter? So in the group chat, I put your weight doesn't matter, but it matters at some point, right? But how much does it really matter?
Are you sharing
So
this?
I'm not. Oh, okay, hold on.
It should be at the bottom. It should be like a green.
Yeah. I'm jumping the gun here. Oh, how about now, guys? What about that?
Beautiful.
Okay. All right. So I'll go back to CCC. The first slide. Does your weight really matter? Okay. So what actually is weight? What is this word weight? Okay. I'm not a physicist. I took, third grade science class and I learned that weight is just mass times gravity. What is mass? Mass is just stuff. It is just what is contained inside your skin. Nothing about what it is, just the amount, right? Times gravity. Gravity is 9.86 or 87, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure Gray, one of my clients, probably knows he's smart as hell. But it's just a constant. It never changes, right? So your weight goes up and down just based on the mass, the stuff that you have in you. Gravity doesn't change. Maybe if you like, I don't know, you get to the stratosphere or something, that changes. So just add Janelle. Okay. So at the bottom there, I kind of already touched on this. What does weight tell you or does not tell you? It doesn't tell you your body composition. It doesn't tell you anything. Maybe you have one of those fancy, quote unquote, fancy scales that tells you your body fat, whatever. I would err on saying that those are extremely inaccurate. And I can go over what those do and don't do, but that's another discussion. But it doesn't tell you anything about that weight, what that weight is. So what can we use weight for then? It is the only tool by which we can get daily feedback. Okay. If you take a picture on a Monday and you take it on a Tuesday, unless you're like super lean and in a peak week or something, you're not going to tell the difference. If you take body tape measurements on a Monday and take them on a Tuesday, you're not going to notice the difference. If you put the same pants on Monday and Tuesday, you're not going to know the difference, right? So we need something to give us a slight indication of what direction we're going, right? That is the only reason that we use a scale and we have daily weigh-ins. Okay. So now, this is where I'm going to give a little example. Try to follow me. I know verbally doing it might be a little bit tough, but there's a reason why you should not be comparing one day to another day, right? Let's say for the sake of this example, your check-ins are every Monday. You weigh yourself this Monday and you weigh yourself next Monday. This Monday, you weigh 200 pounds. Next Monday, you weigh 205 pounds. Okay. Let's say your goal was to gain or lose weight. Doesn't matter. You're either happy or you're sad, right? Because it was 5 pounds that you gained. Did you really, though? Right? Did you really? And the answer is, I don't know. Because what if you weighed 200 on this Monday, 205 next Monday, but the next Sunday you weighed 202, and then the next Tuesday you weighed 207, right? So the day-to-day weigh-ins are a horrible way, even if you compare today to tomorrow to Wednesday, are a horrible way of measuring your progress because of a ton of factors that I'll go over later. Okay. I always give this example to my clients, and there's a million that I have, a million examples, not a million clients, of how to explain this to somebody. But if I say weigh yourself today, Francis, can you mute that individual, please?
So if you
or do I got to?
So your host.
Okay.
There we go.
That's unfortunate. Okay. All right. So the example I like to give is you weigh yourself again on the same Monday. You're 200 pounds. And I'm like, good. That was a nice check-in. Drink a gallon of water and weigh yourself again. What do you weigh? And I don't know. You're probably gonna be what, 210 pounds or something like that. Did you gain any fat? Did you gain any muscle? No, you just drink some water, right? So there's no valid information that you can pull from that, except that you have more mass on that scale. Okay. So when can we use a scale? When is a scale actually worth something, right? When it is used in conjunction with this list here, right? It's not an exhaustive list. There's going to be more, but your scale in conjunction with photos, right? If you look skinnier, if you look bigger and the scale corresponds to that, well, it's obvious that the weight is trending in that direction. If you put on a new pair of clothes and the scale's been going down and you're wearing a new pair of clothes and they fit looser, well, yeah, the scale's giving you some good information. Body tape measurements, like taking those measurements around your waist or whatever. If that's going down or going up and the scale is corresponding, perfect. Your progress in the gym. This one's a little gray area, right? Just because your numbers are going up doesn't necessarily mean you're gaining muscle or getting bigger. But let's say your numbers are going up in the gym, you look the same. Your weight is the same, but you're getting strong in the gym and your composition is changing. Well, you're probably putting on muscle because you're losing body fat while gaining muscle at the same time. So those are general examples. More than likely, your coach is using one of those in addition, usually pictures, but the scale in conjunction with a intangible subjective measurement, that's when it means something. The scale on its own, there's a couple instances where it might have more value, but that's really the only time that you should validate your progress or your mindset or your perspective on your progress based on the scale.
Yep.
Did I freeze? What's going on? There we go. Okay. What else can we use it for? So this is just a continuation of the slide. Now, the scale on its own, in my opinion, can be used more effectively when you take an average. Okay. So what'll happen, and this is why it's very important. My clients will always hear me reiterate this. I need as many weigh-ins as you can get for the week. 7 out of 7. The reason being, I want all those highs, all those lows. I'm going to get outliers, meaning things that are just way far left and way far right, right? And I'm going to take an average of that week, okay? Because your day-to-day might not be the same, right? Monday might not be the same as Saturday in reference to the factors I'll talk about later. But generally, unless you're going on vacation one week and then you're at home another week, the weeks don't really change. They change a little bit, but you have so much more data. You have 7 weigh-ins versus 7 weigh-ins versus 1-to-1. So I can look at an average. If I weighed myself and the average for week 1 was 200 pounds and the average for week 2 was 198 pounds, I can say with decent certainty I lost about 2 pounds, right? So with that, I can now say, okay, based on just the weigh-ins, right? Because even week to week, like week 1 versus week 2 pictures, you might not be able to tell, but I can at least see that I'm going in the right direction. That's why it is imperative. It is so important for you to weigh yourself daily. Okay. Let's see. True fat loss or muscle gain. Yeah. What I mean by true fat loss and muscle gain is I know that if I've lost a weight in a weight average, I'm pretty sure that's going to be fat, right? Because you don't really lose fat day to day very quickly, measurable by the scale, but week to week, yes. Same thing with muscle gain. Okay. Here's another example, and this is one to give you guys another mental thing to think about to help you overcome your trepidation for the scale or scared to look in the scale or whatever it may be. If I told you you had your dream physique, but you weighed 50 pounds or you weighed 500 pounds, 99.99% of you would not care what the damn scale said. If there's one person honestly on this call or who watches and records it later is like, yeah, I would care what the scale said, but I had your dream perfect physique. I will shave my head tomorrow. And we're going to hook you up to a lie detector to make sure you're not lying. But in all honesty, of 99.9% of clients, if you're trying to build muscle or lose body fat, it's what you look like. You want to look a certain way. You don't give a damn what the scale says, right? More than likely. So remember that. It's about what you look like. It's about how you feel. It's about your confidence, about how you perform. And there's a couple little cases later, I think I have in here, where your scale, the weight probably means something, and it's a very select few.
Yeah, I want to give the example really quick from this week because this is what happened this week for me. I had a lot of indigestion, right? So I couldn't poop for literally 2 days, and I was up 2 pounds. Does that mean that I was fat? That I gained fat since I was up 2 pounds? No, it's just because I couldn't poop. I was able to poop this morning. Maybe a little TMI, but anything could, anything could literally change that weight on the scale. That's why we always look at the long graph, like the graph on Trainerize that, we post and we see from our perspective. We look at it month to month. We don't look at it day to day and say, hey, you gained 2 pounds or a pound, you must have gained fat, right? We look at it from the average, right? Which is, I feel like, the most important thing. Because again, you could be, maybe you didn't pee right, or maybe you didn't poop. Maybe you just had a little more sodium, right? Maybe it's after leg day, right? And you're holding a little more water. There's a lot of different factors, right, that affect, a pound up, you being a pound up or you being a pound down. So just wanted to add that in there because
Francis, you want to know why you didn't lose the 2 pounds? Because you're full of shit. All right. So factors that affect your weight. So here we go. This is not an exhaustive list. This is just what I came up with doing fasted cardio, as Francis had mentioned earlier. So I will give a few examples, a little explanation. Hormones, right? When I say endo and exo, so hormones that are already in your body that are just normal processes that are happening, or exogenous. So if you take PEDs or any sort of for instance, like there's kids who are height challenged, right? And they take growth hormone or testosterone replacement therapy, whatever it is. Okay. So there's certain hormone responses, namely estrogen, testosterone, DHT, cortisol. There's a large number of hormones within your body that will have either an inverse or adverse relationship with water retention. Okay. Menstrual cycle too. And menstrual cycles are individual from every person, right? I have some ladies who have 2 periods a month sometimes. I have some that have one every other month. I have some that lose them. I have some with heavy flows, low flows, right? So those factors are things that you may not think about. And the cortisol being one that I'll talk about in stress later, that affect your weight. Okay, that aren't, unless you're taking exogenous or exogenous hormones, you can't really control. Okay. Next, medications. So antibiotics, right? That affects your digestion, your gut bacteria. They're antidepressants, right? Anything that affects neurotransmitters might have a effect on your weight. Okay. Whether you retain water, your appetite suppress, or your appetite's increased. That's something to think about. Okay. Your sleep, right? What happens when you sleep? You're not eating unless you're sleep eating. So the longer that you sleep, the more you're probably fasted, right? The more, but that's also more time that you're not exercising or eating, right? There's a lot of things that factor in that. So if your sleep is not consistent, right, day to day, you're going to have a adverse effect on your weight. So generally speaking, the less you sleep, the more you're going to weigh, and the more hungry you're going to be, and the more poor you're going to perform. Food, huge here, right? This is why eating at a meal plan generally yields more consistent results, because you're keeping things consistent, right? If you're eating, let's say 2,000 calories one day, 1,500 another, you eat 2 times this day, 3 times the other, you eat in the morning, then at night, all this kind of stuff, it all plays a factor, not just the actual food sitting in there, right? But these processes have to happen to use the food, store the food, and do all sorts of things. So if you start messing with the types of food that you're eating in the frequency and the amounts, you're also going to see some weight fluctuation. Okay. Water intake. This one's the easy one. You drink more water, you gain more weight. You drink less water, you lose less weight. If you sweat more, yeah, or you sweat less, that's gonna play a factor as well. Water loss, that's playing into the amount of sweat, right? Or urination. Again, can play into medications, diuretics, stuff like that. Stress, this is a really big one. You have elevated stress, whether that's mental stress from work or a relationship issue, or physical stress, right? From working out or working out too long or too often or too little of sleep. That's going to raise your cortisol. You're going to have inherent water gain and weight gain. So notice how water is a big factor here as well, right? Your body's made of anywhere from, I don't know, 70 to 80% water. I'm not sure what the exact number is, but that plays a big factor. Exercise. If you worked out today and you didn't work out tomorrow, everyone's rest day weight is probably going to be a little bit larger, right? You're not burning the glycogen. You're not sweating. Those different factors are going to play as well. Work activity. You work Monday through Friday, or if you work, a very exhaustive job outside in the sun, it's going to affect what you weigh, right? For all the factors that I mentioned before. Even climate, okay? If you're in a very humid, hot climate, like I'm over here in Arkansas, and it's like 110 and it's just cool, right? Or Southern California, it's going to make a huge difference, right? If you're in very, very cold temperatures, right, you might have a higher thermal effect because you need to keep your body temp up. Those are things to think about as well. Last couple, as Francis mentioned, digestion, right? Restroom usage. One day you might be clogged up, one day you might not be, but that's a factor. And then last but not least, kind of insignificant, but inflammation. So after you train, right, you're going to have an inflammatory response. Inflammation usually means recovery, or recovery is happening. If you, for instance, train 3 days and your inflammation is high, and then you take a rest day or two, you're probably going to exfil a lot of that inflammation, which is going to help bring that water retention down. So all of these things, I'm going to go back here again. These are all things that affect your weight day to day. Where in there did I say anything about fat or muscle? Nothing, right? So that is why the scale in itself and the weight is just not something that you should hang your hat on for every single thing that goes good or bad. Okay. So what really matters? Fat loss versus weight loss. Very simple. We want to lose fat. We don't care what the weight is. If you lose fat, you'll probably lose weight. If you gain muscle, you'll probably gain weight, right? But what happens when we do both at the same time? Recomp, okay? What are we trying to do? We're trying to take advantage of burning fat and building muscle at the same time, especially for the 3 stages that I usually mention, okay? You never trained before, been on a program, and now you're on one. You used to have a pretty good physique, you fell off, and now you're back on. The higher amounts of body fat that you have more stored energy, you can be in more of a deficit. So those 3 things are going to affect that, okay? In addition, the more muscle you gain, right? With muscle comes more glycogen, comes more water. So if you're losing a pound a week and you're gaining, a quarter of a pound of muscle a week plus the glycogen and water with that, you will have more of a balance on your scale than what you really think. What we want to look at is exactly what Francis said, the long-term trend, right? Nobody has, 6 months of perfect weeks, right? For us in prep, a little bit more advanced, we're used to this. We probably have like 10 out of 10 weeks every single week because we're competing. Like that's just our job, right? But a lot of us, we look like this, right? Let's say we're on a weight loss journey, right? It might be like this, right? That's our weight doing this. But what is the overall trend line? That is what we're looking at. That's what we want to observe. So what do we do from here? After Ian just, spoke at like 170 words per minute, how do we proceed forward? Mental health is important. This might not be important for you. And I will say from my observation, okay, usually female clients versus males have a little bit more trouble with this. And rightfully so. I mean, in today's society, you got to be skinny, hot, good looking, all this kind of stuff, right? Puts a lot of pressure on you. And there's also all this weight loss stuff in the magazines and whatever. It's tied to the scale. So my tips are this. If it's really this bad, have somebody else, your partner or whatever it may be there when you step on the scale and record it for you. Okay. That's kind of extreme, but the goal is after this class for you to be able to do this and not need that. Okay. Realize it is just a number. Do not attach anything to it, right? Let your coach dictate what is happening. Okay. Disassociate from that scale and that scale weight. Use different language. This one is huge. Stop saying I'm trying to lose weight. If your goal is aesthetic, it's a physical look, say I'm trying to put on muscle. I am trying to lose body fat. I am trying to lean out. I'm trying to tone, right? Stop saying I'm trying to lose weight because, okay, well, what are you trying to lose the weight for? What kind of weight, right? That will help you also separate what the weight loss and the fat loss will be, okay? This is one piece I just want to talk about again in the beginning. I was like, hey, I don't want to take away anything from anybody, but you'll come to find me as a coach. I'm very objective, right? I'll tell you when you're good. I'll tell you when you're bad. I'll tell you all the information, right? And I think it's important to objectively tell you that as a coach, right? You don't want to go to a doctor that gives his opinion. You want to go to a doctor that gives you the facts, okay? Initially, you might have a very large weight loss or weight gain, right? It's a reaction to a program, reaction to a new stimulus, a training program, everything that I mentioned before, right? It is very important to taper your expectations, right? Because a lot of processes and things happen. All the time I get clients who start a program and they're like, oh, I gained a few pounds, we're trying to lose weight. It's like, damn, dude, it's been a week. Look at all the changes we're making. Sure, I could have maybe put too much food, right? Or too little cardio, right? That might very well be the case, right? I'm not perfect, but generally there are so many things going on that you cannot point to, oh, the program is bad. Okay. On the flip side, if you lose, 5 pounds in your first week, then 3 pounds, like, okay, great. You lost weight, right? There's probably a lot of water. There is something there coming out of you, right? But don't just jump and be like, okay, I'm gonna lose 5 pounds every week, right? There are a lot of things that changed in your program, in your day-to-day that affected that. And I only say that because Francis and Carson can attest to this. The beginning, you can be like wishy-washy with your program if you've never done anything, get some results. Eventually, like the program doesn't change, it's your adherence to the program, right? It's how much you stick to the program because the program can only change so much. And you'll find the closer that you stick to the program, you'll continue to reap those rewards. But the work only gets harder to get the same results, if not less results. So that's just something to keep in mind. Okay. Who should care about weight? Not you. Your coach, your professional. You hired us. You pay us damn good money. Let us worry. You literally just shut your brain off. You do what you're supposed to do, and we all promise you, you will get the results that you want sticking to the program. Okay, do not add anything extra. If you step on the scale and you have a worry, honestly, ask the coach. Tell the coach, hey, like I'm gaining weight. I feel like it is our job to mentally cage you back to where we need to be, but don't worry about your weight. Okay. Competitors, right? This is probably the only time that I really care about weight. If I get someone lean enough and then we're doing a refeed, I want to see how much carbohydrates, how much food causes this much of a weight reaction, right? So that way I can know what to expect once it comes peak week. If you have a weight cap for a fight for, I don't know what, midget wrestling or something, then yeah, you might have to worry about your weight and get your weight into that category. But other than that, you do not need to worry about your weight.
Yeah.
That is it. I know I talk really fast and a lot, but I try to keep these things short. If we have any question, but my goal, I am so happy to give this class. I probably can add and subtract some things, but this is probably, in my opinion, as a coach to a client, the most important thing because it's probably the biggest obstacle or biggest hump people need to get over to digest because we've been so ingrained with this information prior to this.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is something that obviously me, you, Carson, all go through, right? With everybody, where they try to focus too much on the scale. Like Trayvon's on here. He started the program January, and around week 4, week 5, he was on this group call, and he was asking about his weight, right? And then I asked him everything else. I was like, how are you looking? How's the pictures? How's your belt size? He went down 4 belt sizes, and he was one in his weight. I was like, dude, that is massive progress. You're going down, so it doesn't really matter, right? That's why we ask for every single thing. We don't just ask for weight, because if that was the case, then yeah, we would only ask for the weight. Hey, what's your weight? We don't give a shit about your pictures. We don't give a shit about anything else. If that was really the case, we would only ask for it. But there's a reason behind everything else that we ask for, and we do, right? Like if pictures weren't really important to us, then we wouldn't ask for it, right? That's why we have all those questions that we have for your check-ins to make sure that we have all the info that we need, right? I actually overheard Carson this morning, just literally about this topic with a client. So this is something that we hear a lot, and this is why I also wanted to talk about this. So you guys understand, right? We can't just tell you, hey, don't worry about it, right? We want to make you understand, just so you're aware, kind of moving forward. So it's not something that you have to keep redirecting yourself in. But yeah, so great topic. So do we have any questions? Meeting chats. Carson, do you have anything to add, by the way?
I thought it was a great presentation. I would say, I had the call with a client this morning. Obviously, I'm not going to say anybody's name, but I think really one of the biggest takeaways you guys could get from this presentation is let us worry about the stressful stuff like that. Let us take care of that and do our job. And if you guys just focus on those little daily disciplines every single day and just focus on winning the day, showing up, doing your steps, your water, your cardio, and you just focus on those little things, you let us handle, the bigger stuff, you're gonna have a much more fulfilling fitness journey, and it's gonna be a lot less stressful for you.
Yeah, like literally the points, like turn your brain off, follow the plan, and look at the progress month to month. I think that's the best way to kind of go about it. Okay, so Hasmik said this is real. The scale has been going down slowly at first, and it was very discouraging, but I definitely feel stronger. I see the muscles coming on and the weight slimming down. Exactly. See, that's exactly what we were talking about. It's like stocks, right? Like let's say you're thinking about the S&P 500, it goes up and down, but like over time, like it's gonna go up, 8% return. So it's like the same thing,
That's a good one.
Yeah, because it's gonna go. You might be up today, tomorrow you might be down, and then but if you look at the month-to-month progress, boom, right? That's where you're actually gonna see the big results. So, Cesar Lopez, any way to lower cortisol in general? You want to answer that? Ian?
Yeah. There are a couple supplements. And Caesar, in your plan, I have a couple in there that should help. But essentially, cortisol is a response is a response to a heightened state of anxiety or stress. Okay, so easiest answer: don't stress, bro. Sleep. I think I just did was doing your checking notes like 30 minutes ago. I think you get like 5 to 7 hours. There's a huge difference between 5 and 7. Okay. When you're training, right? Not doing extra sets, not doing extra BS, like it's really just anything that causes more work. Okay. That's really just the gist of it. I wouldn't look to supplementation so much. I would look at lifestyle habits, changing your mindset, right? Because somebody like Francis always talks about mindset. Like literally you can have the same life and it's just stressing you out, driving you nuts. None of that could change, but your mindset shifts and how you perceive it, and like stress is out the window.
Yeah.
I do want to say one little thing, just because I'm honest and we're all honest here. A lot of times you'll probably see me post, for instance, this client lost this much weight, right, on the story and all that, right? It's a way to communicate progress, right? It's usually done in conjunction with pictures and stuff like that. So if you guys message me on my story, be like, Coach, you said weight doesn't matter. No, it as a form of presentation, it does matter. So I just want to give that point there before anyone says anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So on top of that, obviously supplementation, it's the same thing with everything, right? Like let's say somebody wants to lose fat. It's like, are you gonna go straight to supplementation? Like, where's the fat burner? Right? No, it's like lifestyle and diet first, making sure that that's in check. And then you want to add maybe another extra 1% to what you're already doing, then you can supplement. Right. But it's lifestyle and diet first. So especially if you're somebody who's been so used to before the program, like sleeping 5 hours a night, and then you come in, we're like, dude, we got to sleep 8, right? 7 to 8 at least. A lot of people, they get used to that stressful state, and you know what they say, when you sit and shit long enough, it doesn't stink anymore, right? So maybe you feel like it's just the new normal, right? Where it's like, oh, I'm always stressed, but realistically, you get one night of 8 hours, you wake up, you're like, oh my God, I feel amazing, right? But that's how you're supposed to feel on a day-to-day basis. So
I have something to add, Francis. By the way, you're killing it on the analogies today. Usually I'm pretty good, but you got it. You got it. This is just again a personal tip or advice that I give my clients. Not necessarily, again, ask your coaches. This is something they want to do, but a lot of times, for instance, if someone works a crazy schedule or they just got a lot going on, I sometimes advise, hey, take a training day off and go to sleep. Right? It's because what is the training going to do? If you can't give it your all, you're not recovered. You're just going to elevate your cortisol more and make it worse. In addition, I'm a firm believer, again, this is my belief, that you're not going to burn as many calories as you think doing weight training. I don't care if you had the craziest leg day in the world. The amount of calories is probably not going to excuse what a lot of people do. Like they go to In-N-Out and have like 15,000 calories, right? So I would rather take the training day away. That's 2 hours maybe that you can have, 3 hours of sleep. Plus, you're also taking time in between the training to be able to do that. Now, ask your coach if that's something they want to do. That's just something that I dictate. But a lot of time that's going to reduce the cortisol as well as giving you time to recover from that, but also not adding more stress into the system.
Yeah, dude, dude, I love this because, you know, when people, let's say they go on a cheat day and then, you know, it was an accident, or maybe there was a birthday or something. And then the next day they're like, you know what, I'm going to do an extra 20 minutes of cardio. It's like, dude, you ate an extra 2,000 calories. You're burning an extra 70 calories because you
Yes.
were on that Stairmaster for 20 minutes. Like, it's not going to make a difference. And it's only going
Yeah.
to stress your body out a lot more. So just get back on track the next day, stick back to the plan, do that for 7 days, and you'll be back down the weight again.
And if you guys want a fun fact, okay, this is just science, okay. It takes, if a 200-pound man walks 1 mile, he burns about 100 calories. Okay, if you run it, maybe burn a little bit more. If you crawl it, right? So just put that into perspective, okay? If you eat 1,000 calories, go walk 10 miles. And if you don't weigh 200 pounds, go put on a backpack. Now, that's not a black and white. That's just general when you look at the numbers and how they equate calories and work done and joules and all that kind of stuff. So put that into perspective. Yeah, a 20-minute walk, I would have to power walk a mile to get 20 minutes. I'm not burning 1,000 calories.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so pretty much this was straightforward. I mean, we talked about everything and what you guys have to understand, but did you guys have any questions specifically about the presentation, or maybe just about the week so far? If you guys have any specific questions. My speech is going to be slowly going away as prep goes deeper, so just so you guys know. I'll try to keep that high energy Francis for as long as possible. Probably until I'm like 4 weeks out.
You got Carson and I.
Fine, man.
All right, going once.
I think Travion.
Hey,
Wait.
Now everyone's like, hey. Okay, so who's going first?
Me.
Okay, Noelle, you. Let's go.
No, I just with this presentation that Ian was doing, I just remembered like the first time I came in, like I was so concentrated on the way that Y was not going down, but like I was so rookie, but I remember like how I struggle on sleep, because usually I was that person that was struggling with 5 to 6 hours, and now like I'm doing like 7 to 8 now, and it's a lot of difference. I'm gonna tell that.
Yeah, big difference for sure. I mean, especially since you're also in prep right now, so I'm telling you, I feel a difference between literally 7 and 8. Like I feel a big difference, which
Yeah.
I need my 8 or I'm dead.
I'm like 10 weeks out now, and like it's like the time goes by fast. And by the way, like I didn't know that Ian lives in Arkansas. We were like communicating with that.
That's why I told you when you do your show, I'll come out there. I told Carson as well, if it's in Little Rock, so I'll be there. But on the sleep thing too, this is kind of a just test you can do. This is also kind of my approach to my philosophy about nutrition, right? Your body's a machine, okay? Everything changes day to day. To say you need 200 grams of protein and 2,000 calories every single day, okay, that's generalization. You might be able to calculate that, but some days you might need 2,500. Sometimes you might need, 180 grams of protein. Same thing with sleep. If you were to have a perfect situation, blackout curtains, cool, nice place to sleep, and go to sleep, and when you wake up, that's how much sleep you need, right? So for me to say you need 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, right? It depends on the person. For the general rule of thumb, the more sleep, the better, even if it's naps. So that's what I do Monday through Friday. I sleep with an alarm, unless it's Saturday or Sunday. I have something I need to do, and then Saturday and Sunday I don't set an alarm. I just sleep forever.
Yeah.
There's
Usually
nothing
the only day that I struggle a little bit is on Friday, beginning Saturday, because I usually right now that I'm on prep is I'm going twice a day. I'm going twice a day. I do my fast cardio on like around 5 in the morning. And after that, like I'm a security guard, so I'm like walking around an area, and then after that I go to the gym. After work I go to my weight training. But on Saturday I had to wake up like at 3 in the morning because I had to do everything at the gym, because I can't go like twice a day because of my kid, because I had to go pick up my son after work.
Got it.
We got days like that too. So I mean, as long as you're getting it done, that's the most important thing. Travion, you had a question, brother?
didn't have a question, man. Just wanted to give some props, man. I just wanted to give some thanks to you guys, man, because this presentation is just a testament to how important it is, man, to have these Monday to Monday They're so informative and so much encouraging, for all of us, man, because day to day, man, I'm sure everybody feels like, they want to keep winning, and some days you might not feel like you are, but the way you guys break it down, man, it's just makes it simple and plain. But thank you guys, man, for being so detailed and informative for everything. So just
Yeah.
wanted to give you guys some props, man. Appreciate you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And well, that's why we do it, is because we want you guys to also be aware, right? Because we know all these things where it's like, don't worry, Travion, like, this, don't worry. Like, we could tell you don't worry, but like realistically, right? We also want to tell you why to not worry, and why it's important to just like look at obviously your long-term progress. So I appreciate that, brother. And then it's a good reminder why we signed up. Absolutely. All right, awesome. So great call, Ian. This was absolutely fire. Did anybody else have any questions before we hop off on here? Going once, going twice. All right. Well, this was great. Ian, Carson, everybody else, you guys were awesome. So again, Monday is the day we build momentum, right? This is the start of the week. Everyone's going to work and things like that. So just make sure we have everything in check. If you have a successful Monday, you have a higher probability of having a super successful week. So start today, go hard, even if you're tired, and then you're gonna have you're gonna have an easier week moving forward. So see you guys later. Let's absolutely kill it. Peace.